But first, I do want to say thank you, thank you. I'm seeing a ton of comments already. Hi, Doris. I'm seeing a ton of comments already rolling in with condolences to our family. And so thank you very much. Well, two reasons. One, if I talk about it, I'm going to cry and I don't want to. So two, out of respect for Garrison's mom and the family, I'm just not going to go into any detail. I'm not going to answer any questions, so please don't ask them. And, I just want to respect the family, and I hope that you will all respect us in this time as well.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Monday, March 18th. Over the weekend on Friday night, Meri Brown returned to her Friday night with friends, and she and Jen actually had a conversation, and their Friday night with friends included the two of them talking about grief and managing their lives post the passing of Garrison. They also just discussed random things, and her return to social media and a Friday night with friends was met with mixed reviews, from some people being extremely welcoming and happy for her to come back and glad to see her, with others being more critical and saying that she needs to spend more time offline and less time worrying about her social media. So Meri Brown and Jen, who have been running a Friday night with friends on Meri and Jen's social medias on Instagram, have been doing this for about 3 years, and for her to come back this soon, for some, was too soon. But overwhelmingly, Meri did not avoid the topic of her grief and clearly was grieving. A very different response to what I told you about on Friday, where someone in Scottsdale ran into Cody and Robin at a restaurant and they appeared to be anything but grieving. We cannot necessarily deduce grief based on interactions or brief interactions, but Meri and Jen's response was much different, and Meri was asking that she not answer questions out of respect for Garrison's mom, which was met with a lot of people in the comments saying that Janelle has a name, but perhaps she was again just trying to respect Janelle.
Just say that it's been a week. We were able to spend a lot of time together last week, and so that was very good, and I think healing in some ways for so many of us. So anyway, but like I say, I want to respect everybody, and I don't want to cry, so we're gonna not talk about that, except for thank you for so much for sending out all the love and kindness and respect that you guys show to our family. So,
and the people that donated, I received a lot of messages that I passed on, you guys, but that donated to like the Humane Society in his honor. That was just
Jen,
cool.
I said I didn't want to cry.
Sorry, I had to at least say that.
No, it was amazing. I think there was two organizations in Flagstaff, the Humane Society and something else I can't remember, that you guys have all just so lovingly donated to, and it's just so kind. Like I just can't believe what you guys are doing. So thank you.
I have no doubt that Meri is grieving and she is dealing with a loss, but she was also not close with Janelle. And so what she's experiencing is going to be very different than those that were close to Garrison are experiencing. And if you recall, over the past season, in season 18, Meri was not on the side of Gabriel and Garrison when it came to the issues with Cody and the boys. In fact, she did not spend the holidays with Garrison, Janelle, or Christine, or the kids, chose to spend it with Robin and Cody. And so for discussions about the boys and about, these divisions that happened in the family, she was on Cody and Robin's side. And so it's very tragic that she lost a son in Garrison, but we also kind of have to remember that she's going to grieve very differently because first off, she was not close with Janelle. And I think that's evident by the fact that she does not say Janelle's name at all during this live stream. She consistently refers to Janelle as Garrison's mom rather than actually saying Janelle's name, which is kind of strange. Everyone knows that Janelle is Garrison's mom, but instead it's Garrison's mom. And then she refers to respecting the family. At times she'll say our family, but I think she's well aware that Garrison is not her family. Garrison was Janelle's son, Christine's son, not Meri's. And Meri was in the middle of a division where she took the side of Cody, the abuser, for a very long time at the detriment of the children and the other women. And there's going to be a lot of hard feelings. And so for her to say that this death is healing is also a little bit of a stab, because death isn't about healing. Death is about sorrow and grief. And yes, deaths can sometimes bring families together. Everyone grieves differently, and grieving doesn't happen in a single day. And so a day or a week that you're together after the passing is not indicative of what will happen long term as people navigate their grief differently and go through the stages of grief, which can include anger and denial and bartering. There's so many stages of grief where people will end up not wanting to be around people that they are triggered by, that they believe contributed to a death or were part of a problem that caused a death. It's 1 week together at a funeral will not determine the long term of this family, nor should we ever describe a death as healing. That's my opinion, but this is, again, people that grew up in this world of fundamentalism where they had to suppress their emotions.
Guys, please have a good weekend. Know that there are people who love you, and everyone is like there. There's so many people there. If you ever feel alone, there are people there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't stop asking how. Stop asking how. Never ask how. Like, holy hell. It's kind of morbid, and it's really upsetting. And are
Yeah.
totally shared, and I'm sure they're appreciated when they're just words of kindness and compassion.
Yeah. And that's really all it needs to be, is compassion. You know, there doesn't need to be anything other than that.
The full live stream of Meri and Jen is available on Meri's Instagram if you want to watch it. And I'm certainly not going to show you all of the clips. That was just Jen reminding people that if they are alone, they aren't alone, that there's people that love them and that do care about them, and that they should reach out and check in with people. People should always equally check in with others. And also, she wanted to tell people not to ask questions about the passing or how the passing happened. There's this natural curiosity that people have, especially when someone passes at a young age. When you find out that someone passed, you want to know how or why. And for some people, those questions will be triggering. And that question is clearly triggering for Jen. I wouldn't say that it's always triggering, though. And I don't think it's inappropriate to ask a question like that. I don't think it's inappropriate to ask someone how someone passed away. If they're sharing that information with you, they're generally going to be open to sharing more. And you don't need the nitty-gritty details. That could be what she's discussing. You don't need to know exactly what happened and the steps that were taken, but you can certainly ask how. You can ask why. Those are questions that are natural. So, and then Meri discussed that only positive condolences, only positive feedback are appropriate at this time, and that even though the family is public, there has been negative comments and negative criticisms of the family, which there has been, and there's been a reaction by fans because of the show. And I think it's a challenge for anyone that's in the public eye to try to navigate this, especially when all of them have social media building and fueling their income streams, So they have to be motivated in a way of like, we need to get back to normal because social media and the show is our business. This is how we're going to make money. We have to be online. So they have to address things. Unfortunately, social media comes with the good and bad. Also, because of their involvement in the illegal lifestyle of polygamy, there's a lot of people that don't support this family. And there's a lot of discussions about lack of mental health resources to individuals that leave polygamy, the causes, the trauma that occurs within polygamy that can lead to poor mental health, the lack of treating mental illness in fundamentalism, and sort of the indoctrination that tells them not to trust psychologists, not to trust doctors, to try to treat everything naturally. And so because of that, a lot of people suffer needlessly and don't get help for their mental health. And I think over time, as many of them continue to understand the gravity of what has happened and maybe start to consider, how things in a whole contributed to what happened, they'll be able to understand more about the need for better mental health awareness, specifically in fundamentalism. I think in overwhelmingly outside of fundamentalism in the mainstream, there's a lot of understanding about the benefits of mental health treatment. There's a lot of benefits about medication. There's a lot of benefits in psychology and psychotherapy and psychiatry to help with mental illness. And unfortunately, when you're indoctrinated to believe all of that is evil and wicked and that mental illness is from the devil, you're not going to trust to get help. Even if you're in the mainstream now, indoctrination is incredibly hard to overcome. And you have to rewire and reprogram yourself. It's not Meri's fault that this happened. It's not anyone's fault that this happened. And it's okay for people to have reactions, even if they're not positive. Because as much as the family is grieving, this family made a choice to put this online. They've made a choice to have their family documented and publicly, very much so. And so people that watch the show also have a right to grieve and have questions and feel their anger and frustration and feel their stages of grief. Because as much as the family is grieving, so are the fans. I just want to share a couple comments to give you an understanding of what people said in there. I'll give you some positive and some negative. One positive was, leave this family alone. No one has the right to tell someone how to grieve or how to act after they lose a loved one. She may be laughing one minute or crying the next. I watched my daughter bury her 17-year-old son. One of the worst things we ever experienced as a family, but she had another child that turned 2 weeks later, and we had a party and laughed, and it was something my daughter needed. But then when it ended and the grief and the tears set back in, and so did reality. So how dare anyone bash her because she laughed with a friend? We all grieve differently, and maybe we should pray for this family and be nice to people instead of tearing others down. And Meri said, I'm so sorry for the loss of your grandson. I'm sure that was heart-wrenching. So some people are giving them support. Example of a negative one was, I only could watch the beginning of this up until you said thanks for the condolences. It makes me just sick to see the normalcy and the social media being used as normal. And don't send me your nasty messages about people grieving differently. Just unbearable to see the smiles and casualness and laughter so soon. And then another example of a positive one was, I lost my child and I still needed to laugh with friends. Gosh, my husband and I watched our favorite comedy just to have a moment away from the grief and chuckle. I don't understand why people think she can't laugh with a close friend. Then people get mad at you when you grieve too long. So many have such a skewed view of loss and grief. Another example of a negative one is, this is the most bizarre and sensitive thing I've ever seen, and not something you do in the midst of genuine grief, or at the very least genuine empathy and compassion for the grief of a mother who lost a son. You may grieve differently, but if you had the tact, you would act in a way that was respectful of the loss you clearly are not feeling as deeply. This is just gross. I think that's the difference here, is that, you know what, she isn't going to feel this the same way as Janelle, because frankly, she was not the biological mother and she was estranged from Janelle. Janelle has been very clear for a very long time that she wants nothing to do with Meri. She will be cordial to her, she will be nice to her, but she will not have a relationship with her. Janelle's children many of them have been very clear that they do not want to have a relationship with Meri due to what several of them said has been their feelings that she was abusive. And that's their right. And so Janelle moved out of the home when Gabriel was an infant because of the abusive dynamic between her and Meri. That never improved. That never got better. She and Meri never got along. And so Meri has a right to grieve, but she also caused a lot of pain to Janelle, and probably Janelle caused pain to Meri. It goes both ways. And the kids were in the middle of that. And some of the kids did not like Meri because she was the head wife and she was the enforcer for Cody. And she took Cody's side at the detriment of the kids, her own well-being and her own position within the family. That is Meri's response, and everyone does grieve differently. Meri has a right to grieve. She also has a right to laugh, y'all. And I think the mixed feelings you're going to see from fans, you're going to continue to see because fans are also grieving. But again, remember, not all grief is the same. Not everyone's grieving this the same way. And not everyone in this family was as close to Garrison as Janelle and her kids and Christine and her kids. So what are your thoughts about this topic? Make sure to tell me in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel before you go. Bye guys.